What happens when a former royal sits down for what was supposed to be a friendly morning show interview only to find herself facing the toughest questions of her media career? The tension in the Good Morning America studio was palpable as Meghan Markle settled into the plush interview chair across from veteran journalist Robin Roberts. What started as a routine promotional appearance would quickly spiral into one of the most explosive live television moments in recent memory, leaving viewers across America stunned and the show's producers scrambling for damage control. If you want to see how this incredible confrontation unfolded word by word, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think really triggered this heated exchange. The morning began like any other at the Good Morning America studios in Times Square. Robin Roberts, known for her composed demeanor and thoughtful interviewing style, had prepared what she believed would be a straightforward conversation about Meghan's latest humanitarian projects. The Duchess of Sussex arrived looking polished and confident, her signature smile in place as she greeted the production team. But beneath the surface pleasantries, something was already brewing. "Meghan, it's wonderful to have you here with us this morning," Robin began, her warm television voice filling the studio as cameras rolled live to millions of viewers. "I know our audience is excited to hear about your new initiatives and how you're using your platform to make a difference." Meghan's response seemed measured at first, but there was an edge to her tone that sharp listeners might have caught. "Thank you for having me, Robin. Though I have to say, I'm curious if we're going to have an actual conversation about the work I'm doing or if this is going to be another fishing expedition." The comment caught Robin off guard. Her eyebrows raised slightly, but her professional training kicked in immediately. "I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that, Meghan. We're here to talk about whatever you'd like to share with our viewers." "Are we, though?" Meghan leaned forward slightly, her hands clasped in her lap. "Because I've noticed a pattern in how certain media outlets approach interviews with me. There's always this underlying assumption that I have some hidden agenda or that I'm not being genuine about my motivations." Robin maintained her composure, but viewers could see she was recalibrating her approach in real time. "I think our audience appreciates authenticity, and that's what we strive for here at Good Morning America. Can you tell us about the literacy program you've been developing?" "I can, but first, I'd like to address something," Meghan interrupted, her voice taking on a sharper quality. "Your producers sent over a list of topics they wanted to discuss. And I noticed that more than half of them had nothing to do with my actual work. They were about palace protocols, family dynamics, and quote-unquote controversies that frankly have nothing to do with the children I'm trying to help learn to read." The studio fell unusually quiet. Robin glanced briefly toward the control room, then back to her guest. "Meghan, I think there might be some misunderstanding here. We always prepare comprehensive research for our interviews, but that doesn't mean we're trying to ambush anyone. Comprehensive research are tabloid talking points." Meghan's question hung in the air like a challenge because there's a difference between journalism and entertainment masquerading as news. Robin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Years of experience had taught her how to handle difficult interviews, but this was veering into territory she hadn't anticipated. "I've been doing this for over 2 decades and I can assure you that our approach here is always respectful and fair. Respectful." Meghan's voice rose slightly, causing the sound engineers to adjust their levels. "Is it respectful to ask a woman about her relationship with her father when she's here to talk about education? Is it respectful to constantly probe into private family matters when someone is trying to shine a light on important social issues?" The tension was becoming visible to viewers now. Robin shifted in her chair, her media training wearing with what appeared to be genuine frustration. "Meghan, I understand that you've had challenging experiences with the press, but I think you might be projecting some of those feelings onto this conversation." That word projecting seemed to trigger something in Meghan. Her composure cracked just enough for viewers to see the raw emotion underneath. "Projecting. Robin, I came here in good faith to talk about work that matters to me, work that could actually help people. And instead I'm being psychoanalyzed on live television by someone who's supposed to be a journalist." "I am a journalist," Robin replied firmly, her own mask of television friendliness beginning to slip. "And part of journalism is asking questions that our viewers want answered. You're a public figure who has made very public statements about very public institutions that make certain topics fair game." "Fair game," Meghan repeated, her voice incredulous. What's fair about constantly rehashing the same tired narratives instead of focusing on substantive issues? What's fair about reducing a person to tabloid headlines? Instead of engaging with the work they're actually doing, the exchange was escalating rapidly now, and viewers across the country were witnessing something unprecedented. A real-time breakdown of the carefully orchestrated dance between celebrity and media. Robin Roberts, known for her ability to navigate sensitive topics with grace, found herself in the middle of a verbal sparring match she hadn't seen coming. "Meghan, I think we need to take a step back here," Robin said, trying to regain control of the interview. "Our viewers tuned in to hear from you, not to watch an argument about media practices." But Meghan wasn't backing down. Actually, maybe this is exactly what viewers need to see. Maybe they need to understand how these conversations really work, how certain questions get prioritized over others, how certain narratives get pushed regardless of what the person being interviewed actually wants to discuss. The cameras continued rolling as the two women stared at each other across the small table. The carefully constructed world of morning television, politeness crumbling before millions of eyes. What had started as a routine booking was becoming a masterclass in media friction. With neither participant willing to back down from their position, the silence stretched for what felt like an eternity in television time, though it was only a few seconds. Robin Roberts, her reputation built on decades of handling high-pressure interviews, made a decision that would define the rest of this extraordinary encounter. Instead of backing down or changing the subject, she doubled down. "You know what, Meghan? You're absolutely right. Let's have that honest conversation," Robin said, her voice taking on a steelier quality that regular Good Morning America viewers had rarely heard. "You want to talk about narratives? Let's talk about the narrative you've created around yourself as a victim of circumstances that many people feel you had significant control over." The words hit like a thunderbolt. Meghan's eyes widened, and for a moment she seemed genuinely shocked that Robin had taken the gloves off so completely. "Excuse me, you heard me correctly," Robin continued, now fully committed to this new direction. "You've built an entire brand around being misunderstood, around being treated unfairly by institutions and media alike. But at what point do we examine your role in these conflicts?" Meghan's composure, already strained, began to fracture more visibly. My role in being subjected to racist coverage. My role in being isolated and unsupported when I was struggling with my mental health. What exactly are you suggesting?" "My role was in that, Robin." "I'm suggesting that you made choices," Robin replied without hesitation. "You chose to give that interview. You chose to make certain allegations public. You chose to air private family grievances on international television. Those were your choices, and choices have consequences." The word consequences seemed to light a fire in Meghan. She leaned forward aggressively, her carefully maintained media persona evaporating completely. Consequences. The consequence of speaking my truth was being branded a liar by people who weren't even in the room when these things happened. The consequence was having my character assassinated by tabloids that profit from tearing down women, especially women of color. "And yet, you continue to put yourself in these situations," Robin shot back. "You continue to seek out platforms to share your version of events while simultaneously complaining about media attention. You can't have it both ways, Meghan. You can't court publicity when it serves your interests and then cry foul when that same publicity becomes uncomfortable." The accusation hung between them like a gauntlet thrown down. Meghan's face flushed with anger, her hands clenching slightly in her lap. "Are you seriously suggesting that I asked for the kind of treatment I received? That I somehow deserved it?" "I'm suggesting that you're an intelligent woman who understood exactly what you were signing up for," Robin replied coolly. "You married into the most scrutinized family in the world. You had to know that every decision you made would be analyzed and critiqued. And when that scrutiny became uncomfortable, instead of working within the system to create change, you chose to burn it all down publicly." "Work within the system." Meghan's voice rose to a level that made the sound engineers scramble again. "The system that refused to protect me. The system that stood by while I was being destroyed in the press. The system that prioritized protocol over my actual well-being and that of my family." Robin didn't flinch. "The same system that gave you a global platform, a title, and resources that most people could never dream of having. The same system that could have been reformed from the inside if you had chosen patience over publicity. Patience. Meghan practically spat the word. How long should I have been patient while my mental health deteriorated? How long should I have smiled and stayed silent while lies were printed about me daily until it literally killed me? The reference to her previous statements about suicidal thoughts created a moment of heavy tension in the studio. Robin paused, and for a second viewers might have expected her to soften her approach. Instead, she pressed forward. That's a serious allegation, Meghan, and I don't take it lightly. But using your mental health struggles as a shield against legitimate criticism isn't fair either. Many public figures deal with intense scrutiny and mental health challenges without airing their grievances in primetime interviews. Meghan stared at Robin in apparent disbelief. Are you really going to sit there and minimize what I went through? Are you going to suggest that my feelings weren't valid because other people have also suffered? I'm suggesting that your response to that suffering has been to monetize it, Robin replied bluntly. Every interview, every documentary, every appearance seems designed to generate sympathy and ultimately profit from your victim narrative. The word profit hit like a slab. Meghan's voice dropped to an icy whisper. That is absolutely disgusting. To suggest that I would exploit my own trauma for financial gain shows exactly the kind of cynical thinking that I'm talking about. Is it cynical or is it accurate? Robin challenged. You left the royal family citing privacy concerns, then immediately signed lucrative deals with streaming platforms to tell your story. You complained about media intrusion, then created your own media company. You criticized the institution publicly while still benefiting from the titles and status it provided. Those deals allowed me to control my own narrative instead of having it controlled by people who had no interest in the truth. Meghan fired back. And if you think building a media company to tell authentic stories about underrepresented communities is somehow hypocritical, then you fundamentally misunderstand what I'm trying to accomplish. Robin shook her head slowly. What I understand is that you want to have editorial control over your public image while still benefiting from public attention. You want to be seen as both a private citizen and a global influencer. You want to criticize institutions while maintaining your connection to them when it's convenient. That's not what I want at all, Meghan protested, her voice strained with frustration. I want to be able to live my life and do meaningful work without being constantly attacked for existing. I want to be able to protect my family from the same toxic environment that nearly destroyed me. Then why are you here? Robin asked pointedly. Why are you on television again? Reopening these conversations, relitigating these issues. If you truly wanted privacy and peace, wouldn't the most effective strategy be to actually step away from the spotlight? The question seemed to catch Meghan off guard. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it, clearly struggling to formulate an answer that wouldn't prove Robin's point. The pause stretched uncomfortably long, and viewers could see her calculating in real time. I'm here because the work I'm doing matters, she finally said, but her voice lacked the conviction it had carried earlier. Because there are issues that need attention and resources that I can help provide. Or because staying relevant requires staying visible, Robin countered, because the moment you truly step back, the influence and platform disappear, and with them, the ability to maintain the lifestyle and status you've become accustomed to. Meghan's face went through a series of expressions: anger, hurt, and something that might have been recognition. When she spoke again, her voice was tight with barely controlled emotion. You have no idea what you're talking about, Robin. You have no idea what it's like to be in my position, to have every single thing you do or say twisted and used against you. I know what it's like to be a public figure, Robin replied steadily. I know what it's like to face criticism and scrutiny. The difference is that I don't expect the world to stop turning because sometimes that scrutiny is unfair or uncomfortable. The comparison to other public figures seemed to be the final straw for Meghan. Something shifted in her demeanor. A cold fury replacing the heated emotion that had characterized her responses up to this point. When she spoke again, her voice carried a dangerous edge that made everyone in the studio sit up straighter. You want to compare experiences, Robin? Let's compare them. Have you ever had major newspapers run stories about your unborn child being somehow dangerous or unworthy? Have you had your own family members sell stories about you to tabloids for money? Have you been called aggressive and difficult for expressing the same opinions that would make a man seem strong and decisive? Robin didn't back down from the challenge. I've faced plenty of discrimination and criticism throughout my career. Meghan, The difference is that I didn't expect the world to change around me because of it. I changed my approach and proved my worth through my work, not through public relations campaigns. Public relations campaigns. Meghan's laugh was bitter and sharp. Is that what you think this is? You think I'm sitting here being attacked on national television as part of some calculated strategy? I think you're very good at positioning yourself as the victim while maintaining plausible deniability about your own actions. Robin replied coolly, I think you've mastered the art of seeming reasonable while making unreasonable demands. Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair rolling back slightly from the force of her movement. The sudden action startled everyone in the studio, cameras scrambling to adjust their framing as she loomed over the interview setup. Unreasonable demands like asking not to have my character assassinated in the press, like expecting basic human decency from people who have never walked in my shoes. Her voice was rising again, echoing slightly in the studio space. Robin remained seated, but her posture was rigid, her professionalism warring with what appeared to be genuine anger. Sit down, Meghan. We're live on television. No, I don't think I will sit down, Meghan replied, her voice dripping with defiance. I think I'm done sitting quietly while people like you tear me apart for entertainment. You want to know what's unreasonable? What's unreasonable is pretending this is journalism when it's really just sanctioned bullying with better lighting. The accusation of bullying clearly struck a nerve with Robin, who had built her career on being seen as compassionate and fair. Her composure cracked visibly for the first time in the interview. Bullying Robin's voice rose to match Meghan's volume. I'm asking you direct questions about your public statements and actions. If you can't handle being held accountable for your choices, then maybe you shouldn't be making them in public forums. Accountable. Meghan stepped closer to the interview area, her body language becoming more aggressive. You haven't asked me a single question about accountability. You've made assumptions, drawn conclusions, and presented them as facts. That's not journalism, Robin. That's character assassination, dressed up with studio lights and makeup. Robin stood up now as well. The careful choreography of morning television completely abandoned as both women faced each other directly. I've presented you with facts about your own behavior and given you every opportunity to explain or defend your choices. Instead, you've deflected, played victim, and now you're having what appears to be a tantrum on live television. The word tantrum was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Meghan's face flushed with rage, and when she spoke, her voice was deadly quiet. A tantrum. Is that what you call it when a woman refuses to sit there quietly while being disrespected? Would you use that word if I were a man defending himself against unfair attacks? If a man behaved the way you're behaving right now, I'd call it exactly what it is, Robin shot back. An inability to handle legitimate criticism with grace and maturity. Legitimate criticism. Meghan's voice was becoming shrill now. All pretense of media training abandoned. There's nothing legitimate about this ambush. You brought me here under false pretenses, ignored what I wanted to discuss, and turned this into a personal attack disguised as an interview. Robin's eyes flashed with anger. Nobody ambushed you. Meghan, you walked in here with a chip on your shoulder and an attitude that suggested you were above being questioned like every other public figure who sits in that chair. Above being questioned or above being treated like a punching bag for your ratings, Meghan demanded, because there's a difference between asking tough questions and what you've done here today. The mention of ratings seemed to hit Robin in a sensitive spot. Her voice took on a sharper edge. Don't you dare question my journalistic integrity. I've been doing this job with honor and professionalism since before you were in the public eye. Honor. Meghan laughed harshly. Is it honorable to use someone's trauma as contempt? Is it professional to ignore what your guest wants to discuss in favor of tabloid talking points? It's professional to ask the questions that need to be asked regardless of whether they make the subject comfortable. Robin fired back. It's honorable to hold public figures accountable for their statements and actions, even when they don't like it. Meghan shook her head slowly, a look of disgust crossing her face. You know what, Robin? I came here trying to give you and this show the benefit of the doubt. I thought maybe we could have a real conversation about real issues, but this is exactly why people have lost trust in traditional media. People have lost trust in media because public figures like you have made it fashionable to attack journalists whenever they ask uncomfortable questions. Robin responded quickly. You've made criticism synonymous with persecution and accountability synonymous with harassment. And you've made entertainment synonymous with news. Meghan shot back. You've turned human beings into content and suffering into storylines. The exchange was spiraling completely out of control now. Both women's voices raised, their professional facades completely stripped away. In the control room, producers were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial or let this extraordinary confrontation continue. If you can't handle being a public figure, then stop being one, Robin said bluntly. Stop doing interviews. Stop making appearances. Stop seeking platforms to share your opinions. But don't expect to have all the benefits of fame without any of the responsibilities that come with it. Meghan stared at Robin for a long moment, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. When she spoke again, her voice was ice cold. You know what? You're absolutely right about one thing. I don't have to sit here and take this abuse. She began unhooking her lapel microphone. Her movements sharp and deliberate. I came here to talk about literacy programs for children, about creating opportunities for underrepresented communities, about making a positive difference in the world. Instead, I got a master class in why people hate mainstream media. Robin watched her remove the microphone. Her own anger still visible, but mixed now with what might have been professional concern about how this would look. Meghan, we can finish this conversation like adults. No, Robin, we really can't, Meghan replied, dropping the microphone onto her chair with a small thud that the studio mics picked up clearly. Because you've already decided who I am, and what my motivations are, and nothing I say is going to change that predetermined narrative. She turned toward the studio exit, then paused and looked back at the camera. To anyone watching this who has ever been misrepresented, misunderstood, or attacked for trying to speak their truth, I see you. Don't let people like this silence you. Robin's voice followed her as she walked away. And to anyone watching who believes in accountability and honest dialogue, don't let people walk away from hard questions. Just because they don't like the answers they have to give. Meghan didn't turn around or acknowledge the comment. She walked straight toward the studio doors, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. The cameras followed her until she disappeared from view, leaving Robin Roberts standing alone in the interview area. The empty chair a stark reminder of what had just transpired. The silence that followed was deafening. Robin looked directly into the camera, her professional composure returning by sheer force of will. We'll be right back after these messages, she said, her voice steady despite everything that had just happened. As the show cut to commercial, millions of viewers were left stunned by what they had just witnessed. The interview that was supposed to showcase Meghan's humanitarian work had instead become a raw, unfiltered look at the tension between celebrity and accountability, between public figures and the media that covers them. What do you think really caused this confrontation to escalate so dramatically? Was Robin Roberts right to push back so hard, or did she cross a line? Let me know in the comments below.